Very good. So, Mike, first slide. Okay. So, um, we noticed that there's quite a resurgence and interest in learning Morse code these days. When we first started the club, which was actually to date 5 years ago, the main reason was that field day needed more CW operators on Long Island. And I think most of us know that you get 2 points for Morse code as opposed to voice in that particular contest in June, which is very popular. And there's not enough CW operators on Long Island. So myself and Rich K2 UPS decided to start the Long Island CW Club to give back for that purpose. Never did I know, after strong arming a good number of my friends, some that are in the room today, like Jerry was number 3 to join. I thought we'd be finished with about 50 people. But because of Zoom, and we found out about Zoom early, and then with COVID coming and everybody kind of locked down in their homes, the club exploded. And today we have over 4,500 members in all 50 states and 56 countries. So if you would have told me years ago that when we started this just to give back for Field Day, that would be having an international organization, I wouldn't have believed it, would not have believed it. So what's driving the interest in CW? Well, people today like doing parks on the air and summits on the air. So for people that are not hams that are here today, what does that mean? Young people like to go out in the fresh air, either in parks or on top of mountains, and operate amateur radio. Now, because of the nature of Morse code, you can transmit further with smaller equipment and more compromised antennas than if you're using voice or even some of the new digital communications, which would require that you drag a computer along with you. So some radios today are as big as a pack of cigarettes. And here you can see one of our members, Jim, N0IPA, who loves to go on top of mountains. And I guess that's a picture of him with a mountain goat up there. That's how high he was. So people go up thousands of feet with a radio no bigger than a pack of cigarettes, and they transmit all over the world. And it's very exciting. So that's driving it. Other things that we feel are contributing to the resurgence of CW is that, you know, people are kind of tired of having cell phones and everything immediately at their fingertips. And using Morse code is a kind of nostalgic yet very efficient way of communicating. And, you know, people kind of like going back to basics. And a few years ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago, the Federal Communications Commission was requiring Morse code for licenses, and they stopped doing that, I guess to go with the times, thinking that learning Morse code and using it would be outdated. But because it's not forced on people now, a lot of people are coming back to us and saying, you know, I never really learned it, and I want to learn it now. So all of these things are driving tremendous growth in the club, and we're experiencing over 100 new people every month. It's a lot. And we have kids too. We've taught over 500 kids Morse code since the COVID lockdown. Some of them have got their licenses. Okay, so a little bit about our club. Okay, how are you, Hal? How do we organize the Long Island CW Club? It's different than other organizations you might know in ham radio. We have no officers, we have no board. Now, why do we do that? We're organized from the bottom up. The people are the voice of the club. What they want is what we listen to. So by having openness like that, we believe that everybody contributes, nobody's intimidated to make a suggestion, so we run the club from the bottom up. The core values of the club are to be kind and respectful to everybody, never to criticize anybody else. We never allow on Groups IO anything controversial. And if ever anything happens, and it is rare, we take care of that right away. And I believe that fostering this type of environment brings in many diverse type of people, and I'm proud to say that we have about 250 women in our club now, and many have leadership positions as far as senior instructors, and they contribute very much. So the main thing as far as our mantra goes with the Long Island CW Club is like any language, and learning Morse code is like learning Spanish or German or whatever. You have to use it. If you're going to become a perpetual student and just listen to computer-generated Morse code all day and not use it on the air, it's not going to make much sense, and eventually you'll drop out and start watching Netflix instead. So we try within 3 to 4 months to get people on the air and to use the language that they're studying, and it's very effective. And because of all of this, the openness of the club, the embracing of a different type of people, we reach out to the handicapped. We have programs for the blind. We devised and invented actually a device that gives vibrational Morse code to the palm of your hand if you have hearing impairments. This is a patent-pending device, and therefore we embrace people that have hearing disabilities too. And bringing all these people together, I think we have a great organization and something unique where everybody's motivated and happy and having a lot of fun. Okay, next slide, Mike. Yeah, I discovered this. Mike calls this the secret sauce. And I think I've described what it's all about. And we're all very proud about that. What's next, Mike? I kind of know this all by heart, as you can see. I don't need a script, so I'm way ahead of the program here. Here's a nice picture. Two of our senior young lady instructors, as we call them, YLs, are receiving a award from another CW organization called CW Ops, and they gave it to the Long Island CW Club. So we're very close with the other CW organization. CW Ops is another organization that teaches CW, but they're strategic partners. And we teach in their club, they teach in ours. One of their founding members is giving a 4-series presentation in our club every Monday night as we speak right now. Okay, what's next, Mike? Okay, I think I've given you a little bit of a background of what we're all about. And now Mike N1CC, who is in Arizona at the moment, is going to talk to you about the academics. I just would like to give a little intro about this. Mike is a FedEx pilot. He's the number 8 rated pilot in FedEx in the world, but one of his jobs was writing training manuals for pilots. So he came to me a couple of years ago and said, you know, let's rewrite the LICW curriculum. We were teaching like everybody else was for the past 30 years. And what was that? Send the Morse code fast, space it out slow, with the theory that if it's sent very fast, you'll be able to reach high speeds quicker. I never liked it because that's not the way I learned in 1965. But I said, we're just starting the club. Who am I to contradict the wisdom of the way everybody else is teaching? Well, after running the club for 3 years, I didn't really like the way things were turning out because that was causing problems with people's learning at a very fast speed and slow characters. And then when they get on the air, they're not hearing anything like that. They're hearing everybody slow, and they couldn't copy anything. It was a contradiction. So I talked to Mike about it, and then Mike, unbelievably, and he'll talk to you about this, but I want to talk about Mike. He read all the documents that were possible to read from the 1900s about Morse code. And somebody please mute. If you could mute that person, Mike. Someone's in the background.
Yeah, everybody on Zoom, Mike, please mute.
If you're host, Mike, you can mute them. It's Patrick. Patrick, please mute.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. So Mike took it upon himself to read all of these historical documents, which took scores and scores of hours. And we took the best of it and related it to what we thought was appropriate from our own experience. And we rewrote our entire curriculum. Nobody has rewritten teaching of Morse code since World War II. We did it. I can't take the credit for it. Mike did it. So, Mike, with that lead in, will you please now discuss the academics?
Okay, Howard, thanks. And by the way, we had a big team, and I had a lot of help doing all of this. And it was all with the guidance of both Howard and Rich. But let's start, before we get into the academics, meeting some of our instructors. We have over 100 instructors and moderators, and here are two of them. On the left, you see Ed, W4EMB. Ed teaches our marquee beginners class. This is the first impression that we give most new students to LICW academics. And there are many very interesting and impressive things about Ed. One that I'd like to tell you about is that he started instructing with us just 6 months after beginning to learn CW with us. On the right, you see Ron, KC2 PSA. He has one of the most beautiful fists, or the ability to send, in the club. And he started instructing just 8 months after beginning to learn CW with our club. As Howard mentioned, in our previous curriculum, we were using the G4FON trainer. And that trainer had a character sequence that was built in. And that character sequence was attributed to Koch. Now, our innate curiosity drove us to ask questions. Why would anyone start teaching with a character sequence with letters, K, M, R, S, U, that you can't even make words out of? And as Howard mentioned, we had significant concerns about the character speed. We were teaching at 20 words a minute character speed with an effective speed of 5 words a minute. And our mantra for the club is to prepare students to get on the air. And there is no 20 over 5 on the air. Also, our club promotes learning CW by using a straight key. 20 words a minute is tough, a character speed for a new student to do with a straight key. And finally, we observed student performance, and several students were stagnant at 5 words per minute because they became accustomed to that exaggerated space that we were giving them. So we wanted to find out about the character speed. And finally, there was ongoing debate in the club as to whether students could start right away when they joined or whether they needed to wait, sometimes a couple of months, for classes to reset. So we wanted to take a close look at that. As Howard mentioned, we did a lot of reading of historical documents, and these are the ones that were most applicable to our project of rewriting the curriculum. And of particular interest was the 1936 report by Ludwig Koch in Leipzig, Germany, and also the 1943 doctoral thesis at Harvard by Donald Taylor. As we read the Koch report, we got the beginnings of several big surprises. The so-called Koch sequence was nowhere to be found in the Koch report. It wasn't his. So we kept looking for it, and we found it. It came from Otto Lippmann in Berlin, Germany. in 1919 in an article published in 1928. And the significance of Lippmann's work is that he was the first to theorize that one could accurately predict future performance in learning CW by how well students learned their first few characters. And to 71 students, Lippmann gave what he called an obscure character sequence of varying difficulty. And what do you suppose that character sequence was? KMRSU. And he was correct. To this day, the most accurate predictor of future performance is how well students learn their first few characters. But now that we realize that we had been teaching with an aptitude test, we decided to study character sequences from the military and other training organizations around the world. And in the end, we decided to create our own. And again, our mantra is to prepare students to get on the air. And the way that we communicate on the air is through the QSO protocol. So we analyze the QSO protocol, and to the most commonly used characters, we put them earliest in our sequence. And what that allows us to do is to very tightly integrate QSO protocol and QSO language into our curriculum. So as our students are learning CW, they're also learning to communicate in CW. So now that we realized that the Koch method had nothing to do with a character sequence, we really got into the report. And if I can summarize Koch's findings, it was that characters need to be learned as single acoustic sounds, what Koch referred to as gestalt. Koch did not want students to learn CW by memorizing a chart and then having to refer to that chart in their mind, what he called the analytical method. And Koch devised several innovative and interesting ways to accentuate the character sounds. For example, he would play the characters for his students without even telling them what letter those characters were associated with. He would ask the student to put a dot on a piece of paper when they heard the character. Did-a-dit, dot. Did-a-dit, dot. Only after that character sound had been totally familiar and established would then Koch say, that letter is an R. Did-a-dit, R. And from then on, students would write R when they heard it. Now, we thought that was both innovative and very effective, and so we adopted that into our curriculum. A full third of Koch's report was experimenting with character speed. And again, if I could summarize, Koch reported that the characters needed to be sent at least 10 words a minute for them to be heard as single acoustic sounds, gestalt. And he zeroed in on 12 words a minute as optimum for initial learning of CW. Now, that wasn't his ultimate goal. He wanted his students to get up to 20 words a minute. But the Koch method is to get students proficient at 12 and then slowly ramp them to 20. And that seemed totally consistent with our mantra of preparing students to get on the air, because most initial on-air contacts are at that 12, 13 word per minute speed. So we adopted Koch's recommended 12 word per minute character speed. Now that we had a sequence and a character speed, we wanted to tackle the challenge of class resets. And our curriculum at the time was a linear curriculum. And what that means is you start at a defined point or a reset with just a couple of characters. And then every subsequent lesson builds on that body of characters. Now, from an educational standpoint, that's highly effective. But from a practical standpoint, it means that if you don't start at the beginning or near the beginning, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. And of course, that's demotivational. So our development team, with some out-of-the-box thinking, came up with the carousel concept. And the 3 carousels that make up our beginners program can be thought of as a group of standalone lessons. Students go on the carousel whenever they want, they come off whenever they wish, and they progress whenever they feel they're ready. Highly effective and totally flexible. Carousel 1 is comprised of 6 lessons where we introduce the first 18 characters. Carousel 2 is 9 additional lessons where we introduce the other 26 characters, and we bring forward the 18 from Carousel 1. Carousel 3 is completely devoted to getting our students on the air. The 8 lessons in Carousel 3 are in direct support of our 5 weekly on-air activities. And in each of those on-air activities, the instructor guides the student on the air, which brings the apprehension level way down. Now that we had a character sequence and a character speed and a new carousel concept, we needed a way to deliver that training. And unfortunately, our friend Ray, G4FON, had become a silent key, and we were not able to modify the G4FON trainer for our needs. So our friend Randy, KN4YRM, was already experimenting with the SC Phillips Morse Pro library. And we asked Randy if he would help us in developing our own trainer with our own character sequence and our teaching methods tightly integrated. And this is the LICW Morse practice page. It is a powerful, powerful training tool. It is web-based. It's cross-platform. This will function on any Mac, on any PC, on any tablet, and on any smartphone, even if it's not connected to the internet. It's a very, very powerful tool. So in summary of our beginners curriculum development, we developed our own character sequence based on the QSO protocol. We adopted Koch's method of character introduction. We adopted Koch's recommended 12 word per minute character speed. We devised the carousel concept so students could start whenever they like and progress whenever they feel ready. And we developed our own Morse practice page. When we were done developing the beginner's curriculum, we turned our attention most recently to our intermediate and our advanced curriculum. Now, the intermediate curriculum is a structured and an incremental approach to achieving conversational head copy. The way we do it, we call the LICW method. We begin by leveraging the skill sets coming out of our beginner's carousel. Students that are proficient at 12 words a minute with some on-air presence. But that on-air presence is relatively scripted. And intermediate, we want more free-form communication. We call fluency and fluidity, or the ability to communicate effectively without reference to a script. And then we increase awareness of our students' state of mind. We call that a loose focus or laid back copy, because a relaxed state of mind, it lends itself to learning and to establishing character familiarity. Now, Koch taught us in our beginner's curriculum to become familiar with new characters. In the intermediate, the students know the characters. We want them to become familiar with the sounds at the higher speeds. And when the students are familiar with those sounds, then they're able to recognize the letters easily, accurately, and more quickly. And we call that instant character recognition, or ICR. And the sister skill to ICR is IER, or instant error recovery, or the ability to miss some characters and words and not have it negatively affect subsequent copy. Once we have our effective speed up to around 18 words a minute, we begin the slow ramp to head copy. And that begins by word building in the recognition buffer. This is where we assemble characters into words in our mind. Some people, like Howard, are very visual, and they will see a ticker tape with the letters going by. Other people are not, but it doesn't matter, because we have devised highly effective demonstrations, techniques, and exercises to help build the process and build the recognition buffer. Once word building is proficient, we move on to the highest level of proficiency in conversational head copy, which is the retention of meaning or gist of what is copied. Now, this is not to be confused with memorization. It's actually the opposite of memorization. It's like what we're doing here today. You're not writing down everything I'm saying, and you're not trying to memorize everything that I'm saying. But hopefully, when we're done speaking, you will have some recollection of the meaning of what was said today. And that's conversational. Once we achieve about 20 words per minute proficiency and conversational head copy, our students progress to our advanced curriculum. Here they continue learning conversational head copy, but at ever increasing speeds. Advanced 1 takes our students from 20 to 25 words a minute. Advanced 2 takes them from 25 to 35 words a minute. And Advanced 3, we call QRQ, or high-speed telegraphy, takes our students from 35 to 45 words per minute plus. I know that these character speeds can seem totally out of reach, but with the right amount of training and structure and practice, they are all achievable. And the interesting thing is, the critical success factors to achieving high-speed telegraphy are identical to those of initial learning of CW. And these success factors were in place 100 years ago as they are today, totally unchanged. That is, first, the degree of aptitude. Now, LICW doesn't screen for aptitude. We accept that there's going to be variability in student performance, but we have built our curriculum to accommodate that. Fast learners can zip right through the carousels, and students that want to take a more relaxed approach can take several turns on the carousel. Everybody can learn at their own speed and feel totally happy and comfortable throughout our curriculum. The next critical success factor is motivation. And motivation is the dominant factor affecting the learning process. Bottom line is, you have to want this, and hopefully want it for the right reasons, self-fulfillment. And finally, Koch taught us that the optimum time of practice is about 30 minutes. And if you would practice for about 30 minutes in the morning and again 30 minutes in the afternoon, that is optimum and brings the fastest success. And so with that, I will open it up for questions. Over to you, Howard.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike, for that very thorough description of the new curriculum. And as you can see, a lot of thought process went into that. And it took hours and hours of a lot of work. There was committees of people and a lot of people contributing, especially to the Morse practice page that was developed. And the end result is that when we put the intermediate and advanced classes on the schedule, which will be in the next month or so, when that's completely finished, I think we're going to have something like 125 classes per week on Zoom. Right now, we're doing 95 classes a week. We have 75 teachers. We're going to need more teachers. So this has become a big thing, and we took it very seriously, and you can see the way Mike described it. We really studied all the historical documents to figure out how can we teach Morse code. And for the young people here, we're teaching kids 5 years old. We have 30 or 40 kids enrolled with us right now between the age of 5 and 18. It's another way of teaching, but we take this all very seriously. So that's basically an overview of our curriculum in detail and a little bit of a background of the secret sauces we were talking about. So we got plenty of time for questions here. It's only 9:30. So if anybody has anything, yes, sir, go ahead.
My question is, do you start, for someone like me or anyone like me, who already learned it the old way, is it worth starting with the first carousel notification copy? Or is it I'm not too sure how to achieve my goal.
What was your name?
AB2L.
AB2L, Rob, good to meet you.
Yeah.
So, Rob,
my computer's been a little on the blink, but it's better now.
Rob, are you on the air now with CW?
Well, I wasn't because my computer was needed a reinstall of Windows 10, which I just did. So I should be able to get back on the air.
Well, just to get a little background, when was the last time you were on the air with CW?
Oh, I don't use it. I'm just
Okay.
I don't have a transceiver.
Okay, so that's my question. And the reason I ask that, if you're not on the air, Rob, why not start at the beginning? If, like Mike said, if you want to breeze through the carousel, if you can, then you go through it very quickly. But this way, you get the right foundation, you learn how we teach, we know that you have the right background, and you get through that as soon as you can, and you go into the intermediate. On the way, we'll help you get on the air. So when anybody asks me a question like this, where they've had their Morse code experience interrupted, I say, why not start at the beginning? I'm not going to kill you. Any other questions?
Hey, Howard,
Yes.
I have a question for Mike. Mike, can you give me a comparison of the way you spoke during your presentation, where that relates in terms of words per minute? Is that something you can do?
Tom, where in the curriculum are you referencing?
Well, I'm still in the beginning trying to get head copy. So I was just wondering where that word per minute comparison to way you talked, how many words per minute you might have been saying to help me realize, like you said, I understand everything you said without writing it down.
Oh, verbalize. Most people verbalize between 100 and 140 words per minute. So the quest for 30 words a minute really isn't that impressive.
And okay, I mean, I have a lot of difficulty retaining what I hear. So I was just trying to understand 12 words per minute is pretty slow compared to the way we talk and retain information, but I'm having trouble getting to that point. So thank you. I mean, I'm enjoying the presentation and understanding. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, Tom.
I'm very proud of Tom. I met Tom 7 years ago when I was doing historical work at the Fire Island Lighthouse. He was operating the generators there when there was a Coast Guard radio station at that particular facility, and the old equipment is still there, believe it or not. And Tom wasn't a ham radio operator. He started from scratch. And he's, not a young person, but he's on the air and he's doing it. And he worked hard and he did it. And he's in his 70s. So the young lady there, you had a question. What is your name, please? Well, we have taught Dana 3 students with autism. I really wanted that to be bigger than it was. And we reached out to a few organizations, but it didn't gel, to my surprise. But if you go to our website, and there's a section there, Dana, students with impairments, you will see some video of the success we had with a non-verbal autistic person. I think, they go by level 1, 2, and 3. I think he was level 2. And he was able to communicate with Morse code with his mother, where he couldn't talk to her before. It's unbelievable. I'm dying to have someone from the autistic community come to me and say they're interested in this. But we some parents, they don't think their kids can do it, or they don't encourage it. I thought it would be easier if, when we reached out to the blind people and autistic, they would come in the droves. But it doesn't happen for some reason, Dana. I don't know why. But we would have to have special teachers for them. And I have people that have the compassion and the ability to do that. It would have to be different than the the, adult program, depending on their level of autism, being 1, 2, or 3. We have a slightly autistic young lady in our program from the UK. We don't go by counties. It's called the Long Island CW Club, but if I knew it would become what it is today, that's kind of an anachronism. I would have named it something else. I had no idea we'd be in 56 countries, Dana. I mean, if you look at this right now, Mike's in Arizona. Mike, how many people do we have from the club watching now?
20.
20. So we have 20 people from all over the country, perhaps maybe overseas, watching this right now.
Howard, we have someone from France. We've got VK Dave from Australia.
We have someone from Australia, Dana. So if you have somebody that's autistic that wants to learn Morse code, it doesn't matter where they are. Okay, any other questions? Yes, what was your name?
John.
Yeah, John. John, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just, and excuse my ignorance, this is my first introduction to your club.
Yeah,
First time I've ever heard of it. Very impressed. What is the, definitely interested in this training. I know it's on Zoom. How do you get involved in it? Is it a club membership?
Yeah, if you're interested in joining the club, and anybody here, go to longislandcwclub.org. There's a membership page. Click on apply for membership, and that will come to me, and I'll send you a email giving all the details of the club and how to join.
Okay.
And then once you join, you'll be given more information than you can believe of what the next steps are. You're going to get a 20-point email. LongIslandCWClub.org. Okay, Mike, KN4 LSR, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm just beginning to get into this on Carousel 1. Now my question is I understand, or I noticed that lesson 1 relates to R, E, and A. Now what happens in like say for instance if you get into maybe lesson number 5 and you start at lesson number 5, are they going to be presenting lessons 1, 2, 3, and 4 in addition to 5, or do you have to start at lesson number 1 so that way the previous letters are not overwhelming you?
Mike, there is no lesson number 1. Carousel 1 is comprised of 6 lessons and 18 characters. There's no beginning and there's no end. You can begin wherever you want. These are all standalone lessons, and you can progress through that carousel once or twice, however you want. So there's no beginning and there's no end. That's the whole concept behind the carousel.
Oh, okay, so basically, Mike, as you're going through each of these individual lessons, Mike, or whatever, through that, they're not actually adding on to another, like say, 3 more characters to that addition. They're just, each one of them is individually in its own 3 characters.
Not exactly. They're standalone lessons, but they build on each other. But you start wherever you like. And the first 30 minutes are going to be those 3 characters. The next 30 minutes is going to be review of previous characters.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, that's what my question was. Okay, thank you much.
Well, that's the beauty of the carousel, because with 100-something new members coming in every month, we had to structure this thing so everybody would be on equal footing and nobody would fall behind, or we were constantly being asked, when is this going to reset? We were resetting like every 3 or 4 months, but people were waiting. Even though we told them you didn't have to wait, just jump in and you'll just make up, but people didn't like that. So the carousel concept was devised for this. Okay, let's take one question from here. Yes, sir. Your name? Henry. It's a good question, because if you went and posted on a ham radio forum a question like that, you're going to get 10,000 answers. Okay. This is the club philosophy. We believe that you should stay with a straight key, until about 18 words a minute. Because at 18 words a minute, when you get past that, you're starting to knock on the door of head copy, and you're going to want to go a little bit faster. And it's very hard to transmit at 20 words a minute with a key. You're going to get very tired with your wrist. So at 18 words a minute, you build a good foundation, and then you have plenty of time as you progress to go on to the electronic keys. Now, other people will tell you other things, and that's fine. We're not cast in stone on this. If you want to start with an electronic key in the beginning, that's fine. But this is our recommendation based on 5 years and 5,500 students coming through the club. Okay, let's take one from Zoom. Is there another question on Zoom? Doesn't have to be, but if not, then you got another one on Zoom, Mike?
Yes, Rich from the UK.
Oh, Rich. Yeah, Rich, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon from here. This is the second session that I've attended since recently joining Long Island. And the presentation, first of all, and the recent conversation has just answered all my questions. I started CW 35 years ago, and to me, it seemed a punishment from God to get the full license. I passed it, and I then went on to play with boat anchors on AM and valve transmitters, and I never went back to CW, which is something I regret. And over the last 2 or 3 years, I've tried various methods to come back, and I get so far and I fall off the horse again. But just what I've seen in 2 sessions, I find it very interesting. I'm sure I can do well here. And I did have a couple of questions, but you've answered them already. One was, where do I start? I feel that I can receive the characters, mid-teens maybe. But I feel that I've got to start on lesson 1, as you previously said. And if I can go through faster, but then I'm not missing anything. So I'd just like to say thank you for the excellent presentation by Mike and the dialogue so far. Thank you.
Oh, great to have you, Rich. I think you were something like 180th member from the UK, right? Or 170 something?
179.
179. We have a lot of people from the UK. I think that's the country with the biggest tally after Canada. Okay, well, thank you for joining, Rich, and keep at it, and you'll do fine.
Yeah,
okay, any questions from the floor? Yes, and your name? Tom, was it? Tom, yes. Good morning, Tom. I can answer that very quickly. We feel using a straight key gives a better mind-to-hand connection in learning. When you have an electronic device making the dashes and the dots for you, it's a different part of your brain. We felt that we have a different type of learner, and it would be better for a straight key. But if you want to do it electronically, like I said to Henry, we're not cast in stone on this, Tom. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you're getting on the air and you're having fun with Morse code and you're using it, you could use any type of key. Like I said to Rob over here, it's not going to kill you to start at the beginning. And if you can breeze through the beginning in a couple of weeks, then it's to your benefit. But if you find that in the beginning you got a lot of gaps, then you're in the right spot. I mean, it's the same thing. If, let's say, you were going to learn Spanish and, you wanted to learn it again, but in high school you took a few things and, hola or bondigas, meatballs. They used to teach you that word, a long time ago. Is that going to do anything for you now? Or are you going to be able to speak? Start at the beginning, get the good foundation, Okay, I think we still got a few minutes. Anything from Zoom? Any more questions, Mike, on Zoom?
I don't see any, Howard.
Okay, any other questions here? Yes, sir, your name, Charlie. I see your hat. Okay, Charlie, yeah. You know, it's learning and hearing CW on the air is of value. With W1AW, they're sending computer-generated code, and they're sending text to you that you're never going to hear in a QSO. So if it was me and I wanted to listen on the air, I would tune around the bands and listen to people that are actually having live QSOs. But is it going to hurt you to listen to W1AW? Absolutely not. Any other questions here? I think there was one more. Was it? Yes, sir. Your name? Yes, Tony. Good morning. We have frequency hangouts on every band. Excuse me. They usually end in 57, 14057, 21057. So we hang around there, and we have a contest that runs continually called the LICW Challenge. If you want to find out about it, it's licwchallenge.org, or you can go to our website and get a link from it up at the top. And a few hundred of us are on the air with that every week. Jerry is probably the highest scorer on that K2GV. So if you want to work us, it's a very simple exchange, just your name and your state. And eventually, if you join the club, you'll have your name and your LICW number, which at this point would be somewhere around 5,600 for you. Any other questions? Now, the young lady, what was your name again? Ellie. So I know you not being a ham radio operator, some of this was a little bit maybe over your head, which I'm sorry about, but talking about the curriculum is more of an adult thing. But do you have any questions or anything? I mean, if you'd like to learn Morse code, we have a great program. You'll meet a lot of kids from all over the country, and it's fascinating. And one reason that they like it is it's a secret code. In class, they send to each other, and they tap things out on the desk, and nobody knows what they're doing. And their parents don't know what they're doing either. So, you know, amongst brothers and sisters. So kids like that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I think we got to get going. I would have loved to talk another hour to you, but thank you all for coming, and appreciate the people on Zoom. Thank you, Mike. Everything went very well. Thank you very much.